This video continues with sample problem 1. We'll go over the qualified dividends and capital gains tax worksheet to help us fill in line 12A of Form 1040 on page 2. And we'll go over Schedule B as well, interest and ordinary dividends. This worksheet needs to be completed so that we could obtain the number for line 12A. And the reason we need to use this worksheet for line 12A, which is tax, by the way, is because we have qualified dividends. And so we have to use this qualified dividends and capital gain tax worksheet. Let's start. Line 1, we need to enter the amount from Form 1040, line 11B. What is 1040, line 11B? That's the taxable income. It's the last line of page 1. And that's $33,300. Line 2, enter the amount from Form 1040, line 3A. What is line 3A from 1040? That's qualified dividends, $2,500. Line 3, are you filing Schedule D? The answer is no. Schedule D relates to capital gains and losses, but we don't have it in this problem, so the answer is no. Line 4 is a subtotal of 2 and 3, which amounts to the qualified dividend amount, $2,500. Line 5 is none. It's not applicable. We're not filing Form 4952. Number 6 is a subtotal. We need to subtract line 5 from line 4. And again, it comes out to $2,500, which is the qualified dividend amount. Line 7, subtract line 6 from line 1. This is taking the taxable income and minus or excluding the qualified dividends. Then that gets us $30,800. Before we move on, let's take a quick look at Form 1040, page 1. Here's the $33,300 from 11B. That's the taxable income and qualified dividends, $2,500, line 3A. And if we take $33,300 minus $2,500, we get $30,800. And that's what we see on line 7 of qualified dividends and capital gains tax worksheet. And here it is, $30,800. On to line 8. Line 8, we have to select one of these numbers. What are these? This is the threshold based on the filing status, the threshold for the qualified dividends rate. Here are the capital gains rate for qualified dividends. Based on each filing status, for example, single, up to $39,375, qualified dividends is taxed at 0%. Head of household, up to $52,750 is 0%. And married filing jointly, up to $78,750 is 0%. So for 0% tax rate, each of these filing status have a different range of income. Let's go back to the worksheet. The same numbers that we saw, income of $39,375, $78,750, $52,750. All of these would be taxed at 0% for the respective filing status. The individual in this problem is single, so we input $39,375 here. That's the threshold amount. Line 9, we enter the smaller of line 1 or line 8, which is $33,300. And what is that? That's the taxable income from line 11B, remember? Line 10, the smaller of line 7 or line 9. It comes out to $30,800. Let's take a look. The smaller of line 7 or 9. 7 is $30,800. 9 is $33,300. The smaller is the $30,800. And that's the taxable income excluding the qualified dividends of $2,500. As you can tell, this whole worksheet is really a math problem that we are working out here. It's just in the form of text and lines and rows of numbers. Line 11, subtract line 10 from line 9. It comes out to $2,500. Again, that's the qualified dividends amount, and it says this amount is taxed at 0%. So it ends up being that there's zero taxed for this level of income. Remember, for single status, up to $39,375 is taxed at 0%. And how much is our income? It's less than the threshold of $39,375. That's why it ends up being 0 in line 14. So then moving forward to line 20, where it says the tax rate of 15%, how much would be taxed at 15%? Well, it ends up being a tax of 0. And then line 23, at the 20% tax rate, it's also 0 because income level is very low. Below the income threshold at each income range level. Now we arrive at line 24, which we need to find the tax on line 7. What is line 7? Let's take a look. Line 7 is $30,800. That's the amount of taxable income excluding the qualified dividends. And we need to find the tax on this figure, which we can find in the tax table in the appendix. And that amount would come out to $3,505. You can see it here. By the way, this is the PDF file downloaded from the IRS website, the forms website that I showed earlier in another video. So the amount is $30,800. You see two numbers here, one in this top row and the one here in the second row. Well, which one do you use? That would be the second row because it's at least. The amount is $30,800 and that's what you use. The filing status is single, so the figure is $3,505. That's the tax amount. Populate the tax amount for that income level on line 24. Line 25 is a calculation summing up the lines above that, adding lines 20, 23, and 24. Line 26 is similar to line 24, where we need to look up the tax amount for the given figure of income. What is the figure of income? It's on line 1. $33,300. This is the taxable income before excluding the qualified dividends. Earlier on line 24, we looked up the tax on line 7, which is $30,800. That's the taxable income excluding qualified dividends. Now we are looking at one that's not excluding qualified dividends. And in the tax table, we would get $3,805. Then on line 27, it's the tax on all taxable income. Enter the smaller of line 25 or 26. The smaller of line 25 or 26. Line 25 is smaller, so that's what gets entered on line 27. But first, what is line 25? Line 25, $3,505. Where does that come from? The source of that is from line 7, the tax on the income that's reported on line 7. Here's line 7, $30,800. Where does that come from? That is the difference between $33,300 in line 1, that's the taxable income, and we will see the same number on line 11B, taxable income. But we have to exclude the qualified dividends because qualified dividends is subject to a different tax rate. It's subject to the capital gains rate. So we exclude that, $2,500, and we get $30,800. We look up the tax on $30,800, and that tax amount comes out to $3,505, and that's what we report in line 27. As instructed on this worksheet, we need to carry this number from line 27 over to line 12A on form 1040. That's the tax that we need to report. Line 12B, we need to add Schedule 2. However, Schedule 2, we don't have anything. That's additional tax. Therefore, the $3,505 we carry over to line 12B. Let's take a brief moment and go back to line 11B. 11B is $33,300. That's the taxable income. Normally, we would look up this amount of income in the tax table and obtain the tax to enter onto line 12A. However, because we have qualified dividends, therefore, we cannot look up this amount of taxable income. We have to look up this number minus or excluding qualified dividends. So if we take 33,300 excluding 2,500, because the 2,500 is part of the 33,300. And now we have to exclude that. That comes out to 30,800, and that's what we look up the tax number for. That's all done as part of the process on the qualified dividends and capital gain tax worksheet. And on that worksheet, we end up getting the tax of $3,505. That's the result of looking up the tax table for the number of 30,800. The income that we look up on the tax table, it's 33,300 minus 2,500, or excluding 2,500 for the qualified dividends. 30,800 is what we looked up on the tax table, and 3,505 is our tax. What about the 2,500 of qualified dividends? That is subject to the capital gains rate tax, and we determine it to be 0. Look on the worksheet line 14, 20, and 23. Therefore, our only tax is on the ordinary income of 30,800, and it comes out to 3,505 as reported on line 12A. If we didn't have qualified dividends, our taxable income would be 33,300, and the tax based on that income is 3,805. However, we are not using 3,805. That would be incorrect. 3,505 is our tax, and we report again on line 12A. Continuing on, line 13A and 13B, we don't have any credits and nothing on Schedule 3. Schedule 3 reports credits. Therefore, we leave it blank and jump to line 14. Line 14 then is 3,505 that we carry down because it's just a calculation and it's a subtotal. Line 15, other taxes. We don't have any in this problem. Line 16. Again, it's 3,505. That's carried down from above, and that's our tax. Next, line 17. Remember, we had gone over that this is prepayments of tax, how much we had paid for tax already. It's given in the problem. It's 4,500. So looking at line 16 and line 17, it looks like we paid more than our tax. Oh, line 18, we don't have any of these credits. It'll be later in the course. Line 18E is the total of all the credits. We don't have any credits. So let's leave that blank. Line 19, total payments. It's line 17 plus the credits in line 18E. No credits, so line 19 is 4,500. That's our tax prepayment carried down from line 17. Line 20 compares line 19 and line 16 to see how much was overpaid, and that's $995. Line 21, the amount that you want refunded to you. Assuming it's all that, fill out the routing number and account number. Line 23 would be the amount of tax owed, but in this problem, the taxpayer does not owe any amount. Be sure to sign and date and other information, fill it out completely and accurately. Always go back and check your work. Page 1. Line 6, no Schedule D, so make a check mark here. And lines 2B and 3B, it says attached Schedule B if required. Let's check out Schedule B. This is the instructions for Schedule B. It says here, use Schedule B if any of the following applies. You had over $1,500 of taxable interest or ordinary dividends. The same information can be found in your book. Let's see the problem again and determine if the amount of taxable interest or ordinary dividends is over $1,500. Then we would need to do Schedule B. Ordinary dividends, $2,500. Taxable interest, $2,000. These two are over $1,500. Either one of these over $1,500, then we have to fill out Schedule B. So let's do that. Part 1 is interest. That's Regions Bank. 2,000. Number 3 here is always 0. We won't have this. And the total is 2,000 on part 1. It says enter the result here and on form 1040 line 2B. We do have that reported on line 2B already. Carry down 2,500 as the total. And this gets reported on 1040 line 3B. It says if line 6 is over 1,500, then we must complete part 3. It is over 1,500, so let's complete part 3. However, we do not have any foreign accounts and trust in the problem. Therefore, mark no here and no here. And that's it with Schedule B. As always, don't forget to go back and check and make sure everything is completed. This first sample problem, much of it was gone over with you line by line. For future sample problems, you would have to do more and more of it on your own. Be sure to review, understand, know what you're doing with these sample problems. It will help you greatly on the exams because exams will be similar, very much like these sample problems. Now this is the first one, so it's not that difficult. Future ones will be a lot more involved.